supporting lawyers and other professionals for a while. We have about 6 million downloads. Our largest single deployment is the European Patent Office, who's provisioned LiquidText for over 3,000 seats, virtually all their examiners. We launched for individuals in 2015 and for enterprises in 2022. We took the time to really understand your needs with all this. We did 4 years of R&D, 3 patents, 2 peer-reviewed research papers on how lawyers and other professionals review documents. We've actually really done the research here. And of course, we're proudly ISO 27001 certified. Our products are considered exceptional. Apple and Microsoft both named us Editor's Choice. Apple named us the most innovative app of the year as well. And I'm proud to say our users work at some of the most prestigious law firms around the world, like Clifford Chance, Dentons, Holland & Knight, Aiken Gump, and Waitmans, and many others. Not everyone reading documents has the same needs, right? Typical users outside of legal have fairly straightforward needs, right? They'll typically read documents one at a time from start to end, make some margin notes or highlights along the way, maybe fill out some forms, do page rearrangement, but fairly straightforward things. But legal users are another story, right? They need to read, connect, analyze facts across numerous documents to construct an argument, do a review, or whatever is the order of the day, right? So my point here is that lawyers have specialized document reading needs. And of course, not just litigators, right? This is all lawyers working with long, complex documents, anything from M&A, IP law, estate law, and many more. So we're on the same page here, right? Do you think this characterizes the unique needs of you and your colleagues well? So here's the problem, though. The tools that you're using today don't really support this. The PDF readers and note-taking apps that are out there now are designed more for those generic use cases, closer to the needs of flipping pages than preparing for a trial or mapping a complex M&A deal. Even Kofax, which markets to lawyers, isn't really any different. As a result, even basic legal use cases, like capturing a conflict between 2 different documents, isn't really possible, except by manually writing out the locations and then looking them up again later. It's tedious and error-prone, and it's just one example. Now, I'm not saying those tools are bad. Many of them are fine tools, but they don't match the document review needs of lawyers. LiquidText is different. We designed it for the highly complex document review scenarios faced by litigators, M&A attorneys, IP lawyers, and more. It's uniquely suited to your needs. Okay, so we're going to see all this in more detail during the demo in just a minute, but just a couple things to keep an eye out for. What makes LiquidText different? In LiquidText, all of your documents and notes are in one place. We've integrated reading and note-taking into a seamless whole, so again, your documents and notes are together. In LiquidText, you can connect anything to anything just by drawing a line visually. It's amazingly easy. And as a result, you can instantly find the context of your notes and the justification behind your arguments. And we give you an efficient, very fast UI for people in a hurry. And we certainly know you all fit that category. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you can expect with LiquidText. So we wanted to understand how LiquidText helps our users. And so we surveyed our attorney users of LiquidText. And here's what they said. 89% said it helps me go paperless, like Paul Kiesel, who said it probably saved his firm hundreds of thousands of dollars just in terms of physical labor costs of going paperless. 75% said it saves them time, like Eugene Goryanov, who said things that used to take him 2 days, he could now complete in 30 minutes. We were so shocked by that. We said, did we hear that correctly? And he confirmed, yes, we did hear that correctly. 68% said it lets them take clearer, more reusable notes, like Eva Illich, who said when she hasn't been in a project in 6 months, if she has it in LiquidText, when she goes back to it, it feels like she was just working with it yesterday. And 64% said it lets them find facts faster, like Paul Kiesel, who said LiquidText lets your firm be a strike force, in part because you can simply find facts so much faster in the courtroom. So LiquidText is really designed to slip into your workflow easily as an improved PDF reader, but then be able to scale up to very advanced document analysis tasks, right? So that's really something we put a lot of work into. Let you start out with it as a PDF reader and then scale up from there. So you can use it for reading one document all the way up to managing an entire case. So what we're going to do today is going to show you 2 demos. So LiquidText is great for any practice area, as I mentioned, that needs to review complex PDFs or work with multiple documents at once. So we're going to start with a corporate law demo that goes through a little bit more of an introductory use case. And then we're going to move on to a litigation demo that shows off some of the more advanced features in LiquidText. Okay, so with that, let's head over to LiquidText. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, this is the LiquidText home screen. And over on the left is how you can import files into LiquidText, how you can open files. You can, of course, open files from just the local file system. You can import web pages, which it'll convert into a PDF. You can even import things from iManage, which we're very proud to support as a partner. But in many cases, the easiest way is just to drag and drop files directly into LiquidText. Now, a couple of side notes here. I'm doing this demo today on my iPad, but you could just as well do this, again, on your PC or on your Mac. We have wonderful apps for all three. And in fact, they will sync together nicely, which we can talk about a little bit more afterwards. All right. So for the purposes of our story today, like I said, let's do a very simple corporate law inspired demo. Let's say that Big Co is acquiring Small Co, and I want to look over the merger agreement and see if there are any problems. So the way I'm going to start that again is I'm going to get my PDF, and I'm just going to drag and drop that right into LiquidText. Take the merger agreement and bring it right in here. There we are. Okay. So this is the LiquidText editor screen. Over on the left, we have our documents list. In this case, since I just dragged in one PDF, there's just one document in this project so far. So I can go and minimize that. Here's the document reading area, and here's the workspace where you can take notes. We'll get a little bit more into the workspace later on. For now, we're just going to focus on the document. Okay, so once I've got my document open, what are the things that you might want to do? Well, as in any PDF reader, you might want to start by doing some OCR. LiquidText supports that. Just go right here, and we have built-in on-device OCR. You might also want to rotate some of the pages. If the pages aren't rotated correctly, you can go right here, rotate pages, and just like you would expect from any PDF reader. So once we've gotten that down, we start scrolling through here, and I see the table of contents. Well, I'm going to want to come back to this table of contents from time to time. So what can I do for that? Well, of course, I can select that text there, and I can create a bookmark, right? If I click Create a Bookmark, it creates a new bookmark. You see it makes the little bookmark icon there, and I can go to the bookmarks list, and I have my bookmark right there, right? Makes it very easy. Just the same kind of things that you would expect. All right. So let's go on. We start reading through the document a little bit, and we get over to this point here, and I would say this section is very unclear. So I'd like to designate that, right? I want to show that it's unclear. So what might I do? Well, in a typical PDF reader, I might select it, and maybe I remember in my mind that yellow means unclear, and I, yellow highlight it. But the thing is, then, I've kind of lost the semantics. I just have to remember that yellow means unclear. So in LiquidText, I can do something a little bit better than that. I'm going to click on tags, and I'm going to create a new tag saying that something is unclear. I'll make it bright yellow here, and we'll add it. See, and now we just created a new tag that this text is unclear. Likewise, I go down here and I say this piece of text we definitely cannot accept. So I'm going to click on tags, and I'm going to create a new tag. Can't accept. I'll make this one's very serious. I'll make this one bright red, and we'll add that one as well. And you see, now I can go through the document, click on tags, and I have my tags right there. So I can go through, tag things really easily as I encounter them. Makes it really fast to mark up my document, but without losing the semantics of what those colors mean. Okay, let's see. So we go through, we make some of these tags, and then let's say we encounter a typo in the document. Well, just as you would expect as in any document reader, if you happen to be using LiquidText on a device that supports a pen, and let me emphasize, you don't need a pen or anything like that, but if you happen to have one, then you can actually do markup directly on the screen. You can say typo and so on, just like you would expect. But if you want to have, let's say, a little bit more structured text annotations, you want more structure, you can create normal PDF comments. Like, let's suppose over here, they misspelled the name of our company. So I can select this, click the comment button here, and write, they misspelled our name. Very embarrassing there. Okay. But if you need to make a lot of comments, there's actually a faster way. So let's say we go on down here, and I think that this actually may violate SEC rules. Well, we know that comments are important, and we don't want you to always have to go clicking the comment button. So there's actually a faster way. as soon as you select some text, you can just start typing. May violate SEC rules. And you see, as soon as I start typing, LiquidText brings up a context-sensitive dialog box with all different options for what I type. You could, for example, do searches, create tags, but in this case, the first option is add a comment. So I just press return, and look at that. It adds a comment instantly. So it saves me a nice little bit of time because I don't have to click that button each time I want to add a comment. Likewise, we go down here, and I say this needs review. Again, just start typing, press return, and you added the comment. And let's say this section over here is referring to the wrong class of stock. Press return, and again, it adds the comments. So you see, you save that little bit of time, and over time, that really adds up. Okay, so now let's go on. I see throughout the course of this agreement, it keeps referring to the closing documents, but I think they may be missing some of them. So let's do a search and see what they expect throughout this agreement. So I'm going to do a search for closing documents. Well, how do I do that? Well, of course, I can click the find button up here, but there's actually a faster way. I can just start typing on my keyboard, closing documents. And you see, again, it brings up that context-sensitive dialog box with all different options. The first one is just do a search, so I'll just press return. And it found found 9 results. Now, I'd like to see those 9 results together to see which ones would be most relevant to me. But how can I do that? Well, a lot of PDF readers will, list your search results, right? But the problem is it's hard to understand them in context. In LiquidText, though, you can actually squeeze the document together like this to bring all of your search results together with as much or as little context as you need. Isn't that extraordinary, right? I want to learn a little bit more about this one. I just squeeze apart to get the context, squeeze back together to get the overview. Now, if you happen to be doing this on a touchscreen device, you can literally do this by pinching your fingers against the screen. If you happen to be doing this on a traditional mouse and keyboard device, you just hold down the shift key while scrolling the mouse wheel. So same, not much different, but it is fun. It is fun if you happen to have the touch screen as well. Okay, so I see all these together now, and it looks like, yes, they actually have neglected some of the documents that they should have included here. So I'm just going to select, and I'm going to add another comment. Review required documents, and we'll add that comment in just the same way as before. Okay, now I'll uncollapse all this and continue. All right, so as I go on a little bit, I see that this clause over here, clause B, seems like it removes the protections from a clause a couple of pages back. I'd really like to compare this clause with the clause from a couple of pages back. But how can I do that, right? They're on different pages. It's very awkward on a computer to compare different pages. And PDF readers don't really give you anything great for that. But LiquidText does. I can actually pinch the document together to bring 2 different pages side by side like this, you see. Let me show you that again. I can literally pinch the document together to bring 2 different pages side by side and compare them, right? And now I can see that, yes, some of the protections from this clause are actually removed by clause B. That is pretty serious. So LiquidText did a great job at helping me discover this conflict, but how do I capture it? Well, we're actually great at that as well. I'll just write conflict. I have terrible handwriting, my apologies. And draw an arrow from the first page to the second page. And look what LiquidText does. It creates a living line, an ink link, between my 2 pages. So what this means is now later on, when I see this reference to the conflict, I can just click the link and instantly the document will squeeze itself back together so I can see exactly what that conflict refers to, right? Okay, so continuing on then. Now, I'd like to see an overview of all of my objections to this draft. So the first thing I want to do is be able to see all of my highlights, all of my comments and notes together. Now, how can I do that? Well, a lot of apps, again, will give you a little panel that lists your highlights and things. But again, the problem is they take them out of context. In LiquidText, we know context is important. So we have something really special. You can turn on highlight view, squeeze, and all of your notes and highlights come together with as much or as little context as you need. And I know there was the question about, can you see just some of these? And you can. We'll get to that one in just a moment. But for now, let's look at all of them together. So I see all of my highlights, all of my comments and notes together, right? And again, I can zoom in where I want. Let's say I want to learn a little bit more about this one. I just squeeze apart here to get the context, squeeze back together to get back to that overview. So if you happen to be doing this again on a touchscreen device, you can literally put your fingers against the screen and squeeze to do this. If you happen to be on a traditional mouse and keyboard device, again, you hold down Shift and just scroll the mouse wheel to achieve the same thing. Okay. So now looking at all this, we've kind of up to this point used LiquidText as this amazing PDF reader with superpowers, right? But let's take it up to another level. Let's say now I want to start creating some notes about all that I've done over here in the workspace, right? So now we're going to go beyond just the PDF reader level and go up a notch and start taking notes as well. So for that, I'm going to go to the workspace here and I'm going to make a little title heading. And since there were a lot of provisions that were unacceptable, I'm going to write in my title heading, a lot of unacceptable provisions. And let's go take a look at our comments here and pull some of them out. So first of all, that this may violate SEC rules, that's definitely unacceptable. Let's just pull that out and attach it. And you see what I've done. I've taken one of the comments that I created, pulled it off of my document, and brought it here into the workspace. Let's see, they misspelled our name. Oh, that's not quite so serious. But needs additional review. Yeah, I think that's serious. I'll pull that out as well and attach it. Likewise, they referred to the wrong class of stock. That's pretty serious. I'll pull that out as well. And so you see what I'm doing. I'm aggregating together the most serious comments, the most serious concerns in the workspace so I can find them all at once when I, let's say, go have a conversation with opposing counsel or with the client. All right. So now as we continue, you might say, well, how do I get back to these comments again later? How do I find what they refer to now that they're in the workspace? Well, you notice these little white arrows on them. These white arrows take you back to your source. So wherever I am, I can always click this white arrow and it takes me right back to what the comment referred to. So even though I've removed the comment from the document, it's never actually disconnected. It always has that link back. All right, great. So continuing on, I remember that many parts of this document were unclear and potentially needed to be redrafted. So I'm going to make a little note about that. Many parts are unclear, need to be redrafted. But I'd like to be able to refer to some of the most egregious cases. So I'd like to see all of the unclear parts of the document together. Well, how can I do that? Well, you remember, I tagged all the unclear parts with the word unclear. So I can actually just type unclear and do a search. And you see what LiquidText does. It does a search for anything that I've tagged as unclear. And now when I pinch, you see, it brings all of the unclear tagged things together, just like that, right? So let me just show you that again. Again, I want to see everything that's been tagged with unclear. So I just type unclear, do a search, and squeeze, and it brings them all together if I squeeze, just like that. And now that I can see them all together, that's great. This first one is definitely the most egregious example. I'd like to directly link to this from my little note here. But how can I do that? The unclear text is here in the document. My note is here in the workspace. Well, one of the great things about LiquidText is that you can connect anything to anything. So I'm just going to draw a line. In this case, I'll use my pen, but I could just as well use my mouse from the document right over to my note. And look what it does. It creates an ink link, a living line, not just between one page and another, but between my document and my notes. And so what this means is later on, wherever I am, I can always click the link to find that piece of unclear text, right? So you're never more than one tap away from the things that your notes refer to. Okay. So I think we're in pretty good shape now. Now I want to go and send this PDF off to my associate who can talk to the other side about the needed changes. So how do I send this PDF back off to my associate? Well, I just go to the send button on the top right here. And we see we have a few different send options, but the one I'm going to use now is PDF file. And you see LiquidText lets me send off that PDF again. And if I want, I can even include the workspace as an attachment to that PDF. And so then I can hit export PDF. And let's say we can just go and open this in Adobe. And there we are. And you see, I actually had to include the workspace as well as all of my highlights, all of my comments and notes. And one of the best parts is that these comments that I pulled off into the workspace, if I click them, even Adobe will be able to take me to the source that comment points to, because LiquidText has actually created some of the links within this PDF file. So you see, now I can go back to the original location that comment note refers to. Okay, so let's pause there. This is the first part of the demo, the more corporate law inspired part. Let's now go on to the part that I think a lot of you will be very interested in, the more litigation inspired part. So for the next part of the demo, we already have the project pre-organized here, so we'll just open it up. But just to give some context, let's say you have a client who had a medical procedure that didn't quite work out. Your client ended up with just some inflammation. And so she says the surgeon obviously messed up the procedure. She's suing the surgeon. The surgeon says your client just was not a good candidate for the procedure, and he warned her of that. So we want to figure out what's going on and build our argument. So let's open the project. So the first thing you'll notice is we, of course, again, have our documents list here. We'll click the little arrow to expand it. And now you see we actually have quite a few documents, and we have like 8. Now, in a real project, you might have tens of thousands of documents here, but this is still very simplified, so we kept it to like 8. But you see you can organize them into folders, just like you would expect. Of course, here is the document reading area, and here's the workspace, of course, where you'll take your notes. Now, our first question is, was our client even a good candidate for this procedure? Well, to find out, we'll make a little title heading here. We'll say, was she a good candidate? And to find out, we'll go to our documents list here, and we already have this document open. This is a research report from a medical agency. So let's take a look through it and see what it can tell us. Well, it looks like most adults are good candidates for this procedure. That's going to be really important. Now, in a typical PDF reader, right, I might highlight this, but I want to do more than highlight it. I want to incorporate it into my argument. So instead of highlighting it, I'm going to drag it out from the document into the workspace like this, you see. And you see now I'm mixing, just like we saw before, mixing my own title headings with bits of the original document. And just as we saw before, we have that white arrow, so you can always get right back to the source. Okay, so now it mentions over here that there's a figure a few pages down with some more details about who's a good candidate. I'd like to compare this text with the figure. You know how to do that, of course. We can simply pinch the document together to bring the 2 different pages together. And now I can see them at once. All right. And it looks like from this diagram, that is actually going to be pretty helpful for me. So I'm just going to select this diagram here and pull this out into the workspace, right? Just like this, and attach it to my other notes. And so you see now mixing text, images, bits of my own thoughts, starting to build the backbone of my argument here in the workspace. All right, we'll uncollapse this now. So let's find out if our client's actually a good candidate. We'll go back to our documents list here, and we'll go down to her patient medical record. Now, what do we see as we go through the patient medical record? We see that, first of all, she has diabetes, she has hypertension, and she has arthritis. Well, if we follow the little algorithm here, we see she is squarely in the closely monitored category. All right, well, I know this is going to come up during the trial, so I want to note that. So I'll create a little text box here, and we'll say she is in closely monitored. But the problem is I need to do more than just note this, right? Because I know opposing counsel is going to argue that she's not in this category. So I need to be able to justify it, right? And half of what you're doing in law is things like this anyway, right? You're creating an argument, but you need to be able to justify that argument. But the justification is here in her medical record. How do I bridge between the medical record and the notes? Well, again, we saw this before. This is one of the great things about LiquidText. I can just draw a line from the document right into my notes, right? And LiquidText creates one of those amazing ink links that connect the 2 together. Now, part of the power of this is that even if I'm in a different document, I can always just click this link and instantly get right back to what it refers to, right? This is for many attorneys, this is one of their favorite features of the product. And attorneys have told us that in practice, this actually gives a material advantage in the courtroom, especially compared to the folks using paper, because you can just find facts so much faster this way. All right, so now we know what category our client's in. Let's try to find out, why did the procedure fail? So I've already gone and taken some notes earlier. Let's go back to our documents list here. Let's go to depositions, and go to the surgeon's deposition transcript, right? The surgeon's deposition transcript. Now, my associate already went through earlier and highlighted some of the key steps in how the surgeon performed the procedure. I'd like to see the overview of all those. And you know how we can do that? We can just go to highlight view, pinch, and all of the highlights come together, right? We can dig in a little bit here, see, will this one help us? No, that one's not going to help us. It's a great way to see the most important information together. But unfortunately, I don't see any obvious mistakes on the part of the surgeon. But maybe the surgeon's not being entirely transparent. Maybe the lead nurse would have something to add here. So let's go back to our documents list and go to the lead nurse's deposition transcript. I'd like to bring her deposition up side by side with the surgeon's. And in LiquidText, that's easy. I can just take her transcript and drag it out, you see, and bring it up side by side with the surgeon's. And now I can review them together. Get rid of that. Okay. And what do we see? Well, now we see something very interesting. We see that the surgeon claims that this procedure took about 15 minutes, but the nurse claims that it was actually 10 minutes. Well, that's a huge discrepancy, and maybe that's actually why the procedure failed. I'd really like to capture that discrepancy, but how can I capture it? These are two completely different documents. Well, you're starting to see the pattern, right? In LiquidText, you can connect anything to anything. So I'll just write conflict here, and I will draw a line from the first document right into the second. And you see what LiquidText has done. Just like you saw earlier, it's created an ink link, but now not between two different pages, or even between my document and my notes. It's created a link between two different documents. So this means, let's say we're in court, opposing counsel says the procedure took 15 minutes as we're discussing the surgeon's deposition. I don't have to try to fumble through and remember where I saw that it didn't. The link I need is where I need it. Instantly, I can get right back to the nurse's deposition transcript and see that no, the procedure actually took 10 minutes. Okay, this is all quite important. So I'd like to take this and pull this out into the workspace here. So I'll take both what the surgeon said and what the nurse said. We'll bring them out. And you see, of course, if I pull these out, it creates little excerpts, and it even tells me exactly where in the original documents those excerpts came from. And of course, as you would expect, since we have those white arrows, I can always click one of these to get right back to what it points to. And in fact, I can even select both of them to bring up both of the documents involved in the conflict at once. Okay, so I think we have a pretty solid argument here, but there's just one thing that we're still missing. It's just my speculation that messing up the timing would mess up the procedure. Is there any evidence to that effect? Well, to find out, let's go back to our documents list over here, and let's go to the phase 3 clinical trials for this procedure. There's a lot of information here, but I'm just concerned with one thing. Did any one of the clinical trials have the same problem as our client, namely inflammation? To find out, let's do a quick search. And you remember how we can do that? Just start typing inflammation. And there we are. It found 5 results. But I'd like to see those 5 results together to see which one is going to be the most relevant. So again, I just squeeze the document together. If I have a touch screen, I use my fingers. If I don't, I just use Shift to scroll the mouse. And now I can see them all together. All right, let's take a look at this one, see if this is going to be helpful. Squeeze apart. Nope, that one's not going to be helpful. Squeeze back together. What about this next one? Let's check this one. Ah, yes, this one's very helpful. It turns out there was someone in the trials who had the same problem as our client because the surgeon messed up the timing there as well. So I'm just going to take this, pull this out into my workspace, attach it to the other notes I pulled out. I'll highlight it red, and you see the source becomes red as well. And now I think we have a pretty good case. So now what we're going to do is write up our grand conclusion, right? I'll create a little text box here, and I'll say, conclusion. Surgeon messed up the timing. Don't worry, your conclusions will be far more profound than mine. Now, the problem is this conclusion is connected to, is depending on these excerpts that I pulled out. I'd like to show that. Well, you know how we can do that in LiquidText, right? You've seen it now. We can connect these things just by drawing lines. And now, look what we've done. Now we're starting to build a mind map here in the workspace. Now, this is, of course, a very simple one, but in a larger, more complex situation, I could click one end of one of these links to get right to whatever is on the other end. Okay. Now, I'd like to send all this off to the court. Unfortunately, the court does not want my mind map. The court wants my Word file. So what do? Well, I can go back to the little send button here. Remember, we used that earlier. And we have a few different options for sending. In this case, I'm going to select Notes Outline. And now LiquidText takes all of my highlights, all of my comments, all of my notes, and organizes them into a nice linear document that I can send off to Microsoft Word with, let's see, where is word? Here it is. With one click. And there we are. Now I can reformat it, reorganize it into the final form that it needs to be, and send it right off to the court. Okay. So there's a lot more things I could show you in LiquidText, but let me pause here. Just a couple quick notes that I'll mention. As I mentioned, I did this demo on my iPad. Of course, as I said, LiquidText runs on your PC and on your Mac as well. But one of the really nice things that we have is we can keep all of this in sync. I'll show you a short video of it. Here we have a user with the same project opened on her same LiquidText project opened on her iPad and on her desktop computer. And you see, as she takes actions on the iPad, they are mirrored almost instantly on her desktop, right? So as she creates this excerpt and pulls it out, it's mirrored almost instantly on her desktop as well. This is great because some things just naturally lend themselves to a big screen, right? Like organizing materials. That's just easier to do on your big desktop monitor. And you see, as she does it there, it's mirrored on the iPad. Likewise, some things are just easier to do on a mobile device, such as using freehand ink, right? So you see, as she does inking on the iPad, within about a second, the same ink markups appear on the desktop as well. Right? And so this, of course, uses LiquidText's proprietary backend that enables this real-time interaction. But one of the great things about the LiquidText system is that our proprietary backend can even be installed on-premise or in your own custom Azure instance, or if you prefer, you can use our standard one in the cloud. Now, as you see, we have real-time syncing. But you might say, what if you want to work with other people on the same LiquidText project?
Here's a short demonstration of LiquidText's collaboration features. John wants to collaborate with Anne on this project. So John uses LiquidText's share function, adds Anne's email, and sends her an invite. After Anne accepts, she and John can collaborate, even at the same time. Here, John is pulling out a list of excerpts, while Anne is typing in some notes. As you see, both are working together in the same shared workspace, and Anne's typed notes appear nearly in real time. Anne can use her pen to ink some notes, and those appear nearly in real time as well. Now, John would like to create a private workspace where he can take some notes that won't be shared with his collaborators. So he'll add a workspace, then change the name to John's Workspace. Then he'll set the color and set the visibility. He sets this workspace to be visible only to himself. After John has added some notes in his private workspace, he can bring up the shared workspace side by side. Now he can easily move a note from the private workspace to the one he shared with Anne. Anne now has some feedback, and so she adds a comment on John's note. John agrees, and so he creates a comment and replies to Anne using the @Anne to send her a notification, which she'll receive by email. This way, LiquidText lets teams of collaborators work together on shared projects, building on each other's ideas, preparing materials for one another, giving feedback on one another's work, and more.